We are Things I Found Online podcast, and I'm your host, Louise Palanker. Today, we tackle family trees, ancestry, and genetic ties. The connective conductivity of the internet is bringing us together in ways more powerful than a phone book, which brings us today to our main event, the convocation of goldfarbs, the power of kinship, family synthesis, and synergy. Our story begins with nomadic tunesmith, musicologist Delmark Goldfarb, who has maintained a lifelong habit of, along his routes, seeking and finding fellow goldfarbs. Born and raised in Buffalo, New York, Del left home and journeyed to Boston, Greenwich Village, Atlanta, Miami. With a phone book pointing the way, he visited aunts, uncles, and cousins, always in search of goldfarbs. Can you tell us a little bit about your childhood, Del? And welcome, first of all.
Thank you, Louise.
Yes.
Wheezy, it's quite an honor to be here and trying to explain all these things that need explaining. As far as my childhood, I graduated from high school in 1968, and that's about 50 years ago. And all along the way, I've been traveling a lot as a musician, as a nomadic occupational thing, and there were phone books, and I'd be lucky if I could find one goldfarb. And I always thought that was rather humorous to find a goldfarb as I traveled. Of course, when I got to Brooklyn, there's lots of goldfarbs. But as the years passed on and things dissipated, the blood family, we rarely see them anymore. They just sort of spread out, and they start growing up and buying houses and raising kids, and you rarely see them. At the same time, the internet became invented, and Facebook, and I could type in goldfarb just to see what would pop up, and the most interesting things would pop up all over the world. And as I traveled, I would start contacting them, and once in a while, somebody was really interesting, contact me back. Sometimes they weren't interested, but with the internet and with these computers things they have, you can type in a word that's used as a filter. You might not know this. So I typed in filter things like musician, artist, and writer, and goldfarb, and then I hit Google. And so I only contacted people that had those qualities, and some of them right here in this room are some of the best. But after today, everybody you see at this table, we just met right here in your studio.
We've been curating goldfarbs.
This is the
convocation. We come to you with the finest, only hand-picked, hand-selected goldfarbs.
We're all blessed.
We're all
blessed in this room by the presence of each other, and I hope that we network together and we get energy from knowing each other. And this is just the first one. We have more activities after today, but we thought we'd kick it off with you.
Oh yeah. Well, the goldfarb hunt continues, but you were telling me that as a child, you kind of felt like a fish out of water or a black sheep because you were creative, and so that was kind of like what spurred you on in search of other creative goldfarbs.
Exactly. I only learned very recently, or recognized it in the Jewish tradition. There's a scholarly Jewish heritage where music is superfluous, and that there's actually Orthodox Jews who they think it's a sin, and I didn't come from that sort of thing, but it was sort of derivative where nobody in my immediate family or anybody I knew or cousins, anybody was musically inclined. I didn't see any music growing up, and this does relate to our special friend over here, David, because when I get to that point, because I didn't know any goldfarb that was musical.
Foreshadowing for
sure. One time, if I could make a sidebar here, which is I was on a train, and I was showing photos with these two ladies, and I was showing a picture of Audrey, and they were showing me pictures of their kids, and they said, is she musical? I said, no. He says, well, you're musical. I said, well, yeah. She says, well, if you're musical, she's probably musical, and you probably got it from somebody. I said, well, I don't think so. There's nobody in my family that played any instruments. They said, not an uncle, not an aunt, anything like that. I said, no, but you know what? Louis the mailman was always singing when he came up our driveway.
You never know. That was before Ancestry. Now you spit into a tube, and then you find out that
I said it was a sidebar.
Your dad, may have been Louis. You just why am I related to Louis, Mom?
You're saying things that I would not have the nerve to say, Louis.
Well,
that Louis the mailman could have been my dad.
We try to be edgy.
But
so now you've met goldfarbs all over the world. Can you give us some examples?
Of course, I can give you. How about Mimi Goldfarb, Miss Israel? Yeah.
Seriously?
Mimi Goldfarb, right. Miss Israel. Yeah, the whole bathing suit, the whole works. There, Jeffrey's nodding. He knows what I'm talking about. Then really, when I got into the music sort of thing, I found out there was this Michael Goldfarb who produced a documentary called Jews and the Blues for
Okay.
Boston radio. And it turns out that Michael Goldfarb was also the NPR chair in London for like 20 years. And so I tried to get a hold of him over and over again. And finally, when I was in London, I found him and I met him. Great, great person. And so he's been getting CCs of everything we're doing here. So as I work my way back across the country, he's paying attention. And he does documentaries for BBC. So we'll splice in his involvement and his reflections on what we're doing.
I would love that. Now, have you determined if you are actually related to the Goldfarbs that you're finding? Because you were telling me something about the name itself that was interesting, that it may have been sort of an assigned name.
We talked earlier about the genetic and the genealogy and the ancestry, but factually speaking, the Goldfarbs didn't have last names in just 150 years ago. They all lived in little villages in the eastern part of Europe between, like we were talking about, Poland, Ukraine, Russia. Most of us come from there. But as far as the last name Goldfarb, they didn't have last names. They were John, son of George, or Bob the silversmith or the blacksmith. But when they came to the U.S., they had to have a last name. And I heard from several people who were Goldfarbs, they explained to me, we couldn't be related because our people bought the name to get out of Russia. And so I haven't learned yet the details of how people bought the name Goldfarb to get certified to escape.
Maybe they just thought they had to pay for a name with gold in the title. Like, that must be expensive.
I accept that, Louise.
Yeah, that could be an explanation.
That's perfect.
All right, so after nearly 10 years away from Los Angeles, Del is back, and at his last gig at a Hollywood coffee house, that gig was attended by one such kindred spirit, Goldfarb. Television and film producer, please welcome Philip M. Goldfarb. To the conversation, you're going to want to get right up on it. We Googled Philip M. Goldfarb. Have you Googled yourself recently, Phil?
I try not to.
All right. I found it to be...
because I might be overly impressed.
No, it's very impressive and quite painless. We learned that Phil is a producer, a director, a production manager, a 2-time Emmy winner, and the 29th recipient of the Frank Capra Achievement Award, which was presented to him at the DGA Awards ceremony in 2015. There's Phil. I mean, if you go down his IMDb, you're going to be awed and impressed. Yes. Tell us about some of the highlights of your career. What people, Phil worked on Taxi Driver. Like, for example, people must come up to you and ask you all kinds of things based on whatever they're obsessed with, because everyone has their own.
In other words, what was Robert De Niro really like?
Well, as long as you ask.
He was probably the most dedicated and focused actor that I ever worked with. I mean, to the exclusion of almost everything else. I do recall one anecdote that in pre-production in New York, he went out to the zoo in Queens and spent day after day at the wolf pen, just watching how the wolves behaved with each other.
Wow.
I know. It was quite extraordinary. And I think he took something from that.
Yeah.
Because, as you know, the character that he played was totally isolated.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was really a kind of an extraordinary example of the length to which an actor would go to try to find focus. It was a very interesting experience. It was not, in retrospect, it was okay. But during the time, it was a very, very difficult movie to make. New York was in a shambles at that point in time.
So the year is?
1970, let me think about it, 78, I think.
You know, that answer is probably online.
Yeah. And
so we're talking pre-Disney.
Oh, well, Times Square was still, you wanted to take a shower.
Wow.
I mean, it was tough. And the neighborhood that we were working in, which was on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, for anybody who knows, was sort of Columbus Avenue in the upper 70s, looked like Berlin 1946.
Wow.
I mean, just, destroyed buildings, abandoned buildings. And we took over a condemned building, and we got permission from the city, and we kind of replumbed it and added electricity to it. And on the ground floor, there was kind of a bar, and we used that to to service the crew, for lunches.
So how much of this is your responsibility to find these locations and to make it possible to film?
Well, in this case, we had a location manager, but they needed some guidance in it, and this was one of the primary locations. The other was an abandoned automobile showroom in Columbus Circle, sort of across from where the museum is now.
Okay.
And we turned that into the campaign headquarters. So it was things like that. But that building on Columbus Avenue became both the place where we fed the crew lunch, where we created De Niro's apartment, and also was where the bordello, Jodie Foster, thank you, was inhabited, and where they had that sort of semi-massacre, at the end of the movie when he came in and shot the place up. And it was all there. And there's one shot for people who know the movie that they would ask me about how did they manage to do it.
Yeah.
And it's an overhead shot on a dolly, and where it's moving across the floor. But when you see it, there's a space about 18 to 24 inches wide.
Yeah.
And we have a lamp hanging down from piano wire, and it's literally going over the scene of the aftermath. And we just cut the floor open.
Whoa.
I know. Well, which we couldn't have done if it wasn't a condemned building.
Right.
So, and it's an amazing shot. It was an amazing experience. But as I say, it was fraught with problems, primarily due to the environment in New York at that time.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a very contentious and struggling place, during that time period.
Yeah.
And so we were literally fighting for everything that we needed to do. But
And it's your job to overcome every hurdle.
well, or not look at it as a hurdle.
Is it a challenge, an opportunity? Yeah.
An opportunity
Yeah.
to succeed. Yeah.
All right. So when were you contacted by Del Goldfarb?
This is about 10 years ago.
Yeah. Did he frighten you?
No,
Yeah.
not at all. Quite the contrary. I was very, very pleased to hear from him, and he invited us to a coffee house.
Yeah.
I think it was on what? I'm trying to remember the name of the street, but Del was performing there.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a chance to sit down with him, after the performance and talk about whether we were or were not related. And it turned out, to the best of our knowledge, we're not.
We are not.
But it was fun.
Yeah, who
I mean,
cares?
it was great, great fun.
Yeah. So for you, it's not about the genetics. It's just about the discovery that we share the same last name.
I don't even understand genetics.
Yeah, that's science, And next we have
I'm sorry.
Los Angeles actor / comedian David J. Goldfarb. Please welcome David. An actually authenticated Goldfarb.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you hear from Del?
Well, good question. Del contacted me on Facebook, and then it got really quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a while.
And he was like, hey Goldfarb.
Yeah,
People wonder.
He looked at me,
They wonder sometimes.
and then I looked at him,
It's like,
and the two of us started looking at each other. We looked. What happened? I would like to do a quick rap song.
Please.
It's a Goldfarb rap song.
Please.
no.
Okay. My name is David Goldfarb. How do you like me so far? I want to tell you something. When I was a young man, my rabbi taught me Hebrew so I could be a real Jew. I had a bar mitzvah, got a lot of gifts, pen and pencil set. Now it's should bet that I'm a Hebrew. Yeah, I'm a real Jew. My grandfather wrote the dreidel song.
All right.
Boom. Mic drop. All right. Where did you? That was epic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Where did you grow up? Tell us a little bit about your background.
Seattle, and the three of us, my brother, my sister, and I, my mother and father. Great childhood. Can I lay down?
Yeah, please. Do you need a pillow? Or...
It's good.
So
yeah,
now
very happy
you
life.
just dropped that bomb. My grandfather wrote the dreidel song. First of all, he's not just saying
I shed
that.
a tear.
That's
I
an
brought
actual-
a tear to my eye.
That's an
literally.
actual historic fact.
Yes.
Your grandfather's name is.
Samuel Goldfarb.
And at what age are you given this information? Hey, you better
Weez, that was the first song
respect the Goldfarb
That was
name.
the first tune I ever learned. That's what I'm saying. It
because
was
your grandfather,
Did everyone catch that line of the song though? Because I mean, I don't know if he.
his grandfather wrote the dreidel song. All right,
Yeah.
what is? Please explain.
This is a framed sheet music written in my grandfather's hand of the Dreidel song.
That's
which
amazing.
I brought for
Should we all sing it?
Yeah, it's the
I
first,
think we
first tune I ever
should.
knew. First tune I
Please,
ever knew.
can you please give us a note?
You want me to sing?
I think
No,
we
we're
should
all
sing it
gonna
together.
sing.
Oh, good.
Yeah, there's not a Jew who doesn't know this.
I have a little dreidel. I made it out of clay. And when it's dry and ready, oh, dreidel, I will play. Oh, dreidel, dreidel, dreidel. I made it out of clay. And when it's dry and ready, oh, dreidel, I will play.
Okay, I wish I knew the words.
Harmony.
I guess I don't know the words.
That was the
Bring it.
first tune I ever sang.
What else did he
I'm not
write?
Jewish
He
enough.
wrote Shalom Aleichem.
His brother wrote
Malachi. Well, it's interesting. I didn't
Oh.
bring the book, but
Oh.
there's the Jewish songster,
Yeah.
and in there is the Shalom Aleichem song.
Yes.
And up on the upper right-hand corner
That's right,
is
both of them.
S-E-N-I Goldfarb.
Right.
So
they
it was
both
your
are
grandfather and his
co-credited.
brother.
Yeah,
Yeah.
both.
So give us a little background on these two guys.
Well, this is where I get into trouble because it's history, and I didn't pay a lot of attention, but they grew up in
We
Lower
have the
East Side.
internet.
Let me interject, please.
Yes.
Last fall, a group of students at Columbia University in Brandeis, I didn't know this, Shalom Aleichem was written on the steps of the Columbia University Library. But I think both brothers were involved, but Israel wrote the journal. And besides, we just sang the funny song, but Shalom Aleichem is the most Jewish song there is. It's sung all over the world. Yeah. And so these students sang it on the steps on the anniversary of Israel writing it, and they made a Facebook page of it. Did you see that?
Now, if you don't know
he
that
wrote-
song, we could sing a little of it, but we won't do it justice because this is a song that makes you cry, whether or not you understand what they're saying.
I don't want
It's-
to. I don't want
it's-
to cry right now.
But it's just so beautiful.
You want to sing it?
I wouldn't do it justice.
No.
Can you
Okay.
sing it?
I would try.
I would love that.
Can we all sing it? Do we all know
If you
it?
I
start,
don't know it.
Avino?
Okay.
I don't know all the words.
Oh, let's just do as much as we can.
Okay.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Ahoris, Malachei Elyon. I go a little off key. Mi melech Malachei Amlochim HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
okay, so what is it saying?
I have no idea. No, they're beautiful. It's Shalom Aleichem. It's the song that they sing on Friday night to usher in the angel of
Well,
peace.
Shalom Aleichem means peace to all of us.
Closer
Peace.
to the mic.
Right, peace to all
Peace
of
to
us.
all of us.
And then the next line?
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Shalom.
Give us peace.
Yeah.
Okay.
Malachei Elyon. Elohim.
On this day, on El Yom or
Elyon.
on this day?
It's just amazing.
Where's the Rebbe?
No, on
great.
It's welcoming the
great,
Sabbath.
Bill.
It's,
Yeah,
it's
it's
welcoming
beautiful.
the Sabbath to bring
Right.
peace.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
thank you.
Yeah.
And I
On
remember
Friday
my
night- on
grandfather
Friday night
was
when-
interviewed, and he said that they contacted him, a studio contacted him to give him royalties on the Victory on Entebbe
Oh, wow.
to credit him for that song. So there's some dispute over where it originated or who. I think they both wrote it. They were both collaborating on it. That's
Sometimes back before recorded music or before songs were credited the way they came to be credited with the advent of recorded music, people would borrow melodies and,
I think
you
so.
know, that's why you hear that the Star Spangled Banner was some sort of drinking song. So people would borrow melodies and then add lyrics to it, and it wasn't considered stealing. That was just melodies were passed on and passed on and passed
Yeah.
on. They weren't thought of as someone's possession or someone's invention. They were just something that was shared.
I gotta clarify this because it hasn't been clarified yet. But there's these two brothers. One was the Rabbi Israel.
Okay?
He founded the schools for cantors in the United States,
Wow.
and he wrote the curriculum. So the stuff that you hear in temples, Israel Goldfarb wrote that, and he was the rabbi of the main temple in Brooklyn for 50 years.
Okay.
Do you know what temple it was?
Cain Synagogue. There's a lot about it. I looked at Cain on the
Okay.
internet, and they got all sorts of stuff about Rabbi Israel. Now, his brother Sam was director of the music education department of New York City in 1925. So he was more popular oriented, and he was an accompanist to George Gershwin and Irving Berlin. Sam.
So he was more of a secular music guy.
Yeah. Israel was bar mitzvahed. He bar mitzvahed Aaron Copland.
Wow.
So you hear the elements of what we're hearing right now throughout American music. That's what I discovered through Michael Goldfarb. He turned me on to the history of jazz and blues and Jews. We talked about all the Jewish musicians who had to change their names to go to work. That's the thing that we've been talking about, this whole Goldfarb thing. I've been told many times in the past that if I changed my name, I'd get more gigs. Recording deals, festivals. I've been told this up front. And man, you're really, really good, but with that name, you got to do something about it. And forever, Jewish musicians have been doing this. And,
You mean like Zimmerman?
that Zimmerman guy, yeah, before he became Bobby Rydell. So, but yeah, throughout history, Mel Torme, but so the essence of what
Mel Goldfarb.
There you go. The essence of the popular music. I'm sorry, it all comes from Goldfarb, and I'm done.
Drop the mic.
Drop.
Don't drop the mics.
Yeah. Well, they're connected right now.
Sorry.
Nice
So
mics.
that's just an interesting thing to learn as a musician coming from a family with no musical heritage at all, to find out that the Goldfarbs published the songbooks for the schools, the synagogues. It's called. You can see them on the internet. I bought one. I didn't carry it with me. There's Goldfarb embossed on the front. It's just amazing to
Wow.
learn.
Yeah.
So did you know your grandfather?
Oh, yeah. He helped me with my bar mitzvah.
He did.
He did.
Yeah.
He had a great joke. He said, "How do you say fish without moving your lips?" Herring. It's cute.
We needed that.
Yeah, a little
So
levity.
do you know any other songs that he wrote?
Theodore
Wicked Man.
Theodore Bickel.
No, the Wicked
Yeah.
Wicked Man.
He wrote,
Haman was a wicked
he wrote a song that Theodore Bickel sang. On this night, let us light.
Yeah.
It's the little
Hanukkah
candle
song?
fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's so many. He
A
just
gentleman
wrote a
here-
lot of liturgical Jewish music.
Somebody here in L.A.
Tons of it.
recently produced a CD. What he's talking about is
Myron.
no, who's the singer you just mentioned?
Theodore
Bickel
Bickel, yes.
did one song, but he got all these amazing artists in L.A. to record the other songs by Sam. There's a whole CD, a whole website about it. I had no idea. It's just amazing.
Now, of course, also with us, we have journalist, filmmaker Audrey Rose Goldfarb, daughter of Dell. And she's documenting this event today. And can you introduce yourself and then introduce your brother?
Hey, everybody. Thank you. I'm Audrey. I produce Odd Reality. It's unscripted gonzo journalism based in Portland and, well, sometimes on the road. And this is my half bro, Jeffrey. He lives here. Half bro.
Yeah.
But he's not an
I'm helping
official.
with the singing.
He is.
He knows all the words.
He's our background vocalist.
Every
So
young man that went to Jewish community camp knew that song. That song, we all sang that before Shabbat. So of course I was indoctrinated in all of those songs.
That's beautiful.
Absolutely.
yeah, and you must hear those stories all the time from people.
I don't want to. We're talking
But
with Audrey.
Haman was a wicked, wicked man.
Haman,
that
that was
was the
another
best song of ever.
Yeah.
Everything
Oh,
happens in that song. Everything.
I mean, I could jump in, but
Do it,
I don't
please.
want to.
No.
I want to hear what Audrey was saying.
You two guys do Haman was a wicked, wicked man.
Oh, once there was a wicked, wicked man, and Haman was his name, sir.
I do
That's all I
remember
got.
that.
Hey, it's the
Yeah,
best
that's all I
one from
remember.
Sunday school.
The Jews were not to blame, sir.
Yes.
That's as far as I can go.
That's right. I mean, he's like the Jewish Mozart. He really
It
just
is-
wrote
it
these
is.
little ditties, and they
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you're a creative, but you came from creative people. So for
Yes.
you, going into these fields was just kind of a natural.
Yeah, I tried corporate. It just wasn't a fit. I just couldn't sit still. So this is a better place for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where can people find your acting and comedian?
You just come find me.
Just
You just call me.
He's just out there on the street.
Yeah, I am in a Mario Kart 8 game. It's a fun video game that Nintendo.
you
Put
do a
out.
lot of voiceover, right?
I do crazy things. I'm seeing people.
So in Mario Kart,
Yeah.
which voice are you?
The character's name is Ludwig, and I don't know if I want to do that for you right
That
now.
voice?
Can you do Ludwig singing Haman was a wicked, wicked man?
That's pretty
Oh, there
close.
you go.
I think I just did. Wow, this is going downhill.
So let's talk about other Goldfarbs of renown. Oh, there we found
There
him.
he is. Looks
What?
just like you.
Look.
Oh my.
Striking resemblance.
Put some clothes on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here in Los Angeles, there's a couple more that I'm trying to get a hold of. One is Sandy Goldfarb, who It looks like she worked with folk musicians going way back, a lot of work, and so I hope to connect with her. She couldn't be here today. Another one was Margaret Goldfarb. She is some sort of musical work. She had a record store at one time. She couldn't be here, but we're going to be meeting these people before we leave the territory. There's a Lynn Goldfarb, who's a filmmaker. There's an Ed Goldfarb up in Northern California who doesn't know right now why I'm trying to get a hold of him, and he asked me to stop.
Really?
I'll call him. Give me his number.
It's Ed Goldfarb. Ed, if you see this is what I was asking you about.
Ed,
Okay.
it's just a little summons. Don't even.
And
I'm going to just jump in. David J. Goldfarb, if you want to find me.
David
You're
J.
David J. Goldfarb.
Yeah. So
Well,
if you-
I put
David
together.
J. Goldfarb or davidgoldfarb.com. And
there
that's
you
all.
are.
That's my plug.
Yeah, there,
Wow.
I don't
there-
want to
there
say
he is.
anymore.
I
It's so
Said too much
lifelike.
already.
It really is. I have a Goldfarb wish list. This is just, I compiled this just by Googling Goldfarb, and I would like for you to find these Goldfarbs because I find them intriguing.
Okay.
Okay, so this is just for me. Ben Goldfarb is an independent environmental journalist and the author of Eager, The Surprising Secret Life of Beavers and Why They Matter. Please also find, if you would for me, Will Goldfarb,
The chef.
pastry genius Will Goldfarb, decamped to Bali
He's in Bali.
and has some unfinished business. So there's Will Goldfarb. We don't know what he's cooking or why he's in Bali.
He's in Bali.
But I would like for you guys to meet him and find him and bring him to me.
How about Anna Goldfarb, right for the New
Then
York
we have
Times?
Anna Goldfarb, who is a New York Times journalist, and her most recent articles have included 5 cheapish things to combat cabin fever and how to write a family newsletter your friends will actually read. So she probably had to do a lot of research to figure that part out, because who here reads the family Christmas?
I read everything.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah.
Zachary Goldfarb at the Wall Street Journal.
We don't have a family post, but he's started one now, right?
What?
We've
You're
got-
gonna need
we're
you're
all
gonna
on the
need
email
her
chain.
advice, because you guys
know.
are finding new family members every time you turn around.
There's an Aviva. Her name is Aviva Goldfarb. Does really, I don't know how to describe it, but we will be getting a hold of her eventually. She's the East Coast, D.C., New York area. She's I can't. Aviva, unusual name. If you guys can look it up. Tell
So
her.
you're pretty fearless about reaching out to Goldfarbs, yes?
Well, what's there to be afraid of?
So you'll pick up the phone, you'll email, you'll Facebook, inbox.
The worst thing they can do is like hang up
No, that's
or
not
not
the
respond.
worst thing.
And you know, I'll
I
tell
can
you
think
what.
of a lot worse things.
It's really funny that you can usually figure it all out in the first 15 seconds. You know, if I send them a text or Facebook, musicians usually want to know what the other musicians are up to, so they can know if they're better or not. You know.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and so if you say you're a musician to another musician, what do you got? And then you'll get a little text back, and then it may go up or down from there.
Just like the notes on a scale.
Exactly. Writers, same thing.
So now, Phil, when you were going into your line of work, were there other creatives in your family, or did you feel like you were pushing against the current?
I was probably the blackest of black sheep.
Really?
Yeah, I barely got out of high school. I had to end up going to both night school and summer school in order to get my high school diploma, because I was kind of a screw up.
Were you screwing up, or was it just that you had some sort of undiagnosed learning disability or learning difference?
Quite the contrary. In fact, it's a little bit of a digression, but at one point they were giving us this comprehensive reading examination in high school English, and the top of the curve was like sophomore college. And I took the exam, and when the results came back, I had scored the highest possible score. And the English teacher, of course, given my behavior, accused me of cheating. And I responded to her by saying, okay, given that I had the highest score, who did I cheat from?
Wow, you're some kind of genius. Like, that's like a logic conundrum.
Yeah, and so
Like, what
she didn't have a response for me. No, and it really, for me, I was active in the sense that there were musical activities both in junior high school and high school. I performed in the Student Prince, playing Dr. Engel. And then in high school, we had both mixed chorus, which I participated in, and then what they called Sing, which were these annual reviews that each grade put on during the course of the year. So I had that level of orientation, but it was not out of any family experience. The closest I could come to that was the fact that my grandfather on my father's side had a great voice. But other than that, there was nobody had formal training. Nobody really did anything with it. This didn't quite lead me into the motion picture business. That came out of a totally different source, which I don't think is a question for a family broadcast.
Wow. Okay. That's mysterious.
Thank you for that.
Well, I can share it with you after the fact.
Okay.
All right.
But
After
not
party.
right now.
Oh, okay.
But once you started down the path of the film industry, whatever, did you know that you were where you were supposed to be?
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
What happened was when we were probably in our late teens, early 20s, we would go out, probably taking our father's 8mm cameras, and just film at random,
Yeah.
right? Just go out over a weekend and just shoot whatever caught our eye.
Yeah.
We would then take it back home and imbibe of a certain mild form of hallucinogenic and project the image and put on a phonograph record. And occasionally there would be a synergy, either in rhythm between the image on the screen and the music, or substantially out of context. You know, it would be there. And it was amazing when it happened. And I kind of realized at that point that if that could happen at random, imagine what it'd be like if you actually planned it.
Yeah.
And that was it. I was hooked. And from that point forward, I was heading in that direction. It took a bit of doing. And there were some family connections that kind of led me one step after another. First into, first documentaries, and then from documentaries into television commercials, and then from television commercials into theatrical feature films, and then back and forth between feature films and television.
So you've had an illustrious career, and we want to hear more gossip about celebrities. Go.
Okay. Alive or dead?
It helps if they're dead, because then you're going to tell us more.
Let me try to think. Okay. Walter Matthau.
Yeah,
Please.
Wonderful man.
Yeah.
Absolutely wonderful man. Kind, thoughtful, considerate, and a terrible compulsive gambler.
Wow. That's awesome.
And got himself into some big trouble, not on anything I was doing with him, but at one point he had to actually do a TV show in order to pay off his bets, because he was so deep into it. And it was not a show he wanted to do. But they told him basically, if you don't do this, it's not going to go well for you.
Jeez.
Ooh, I like.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, now whenever I see like a big star doing something where you're just like, why is he in this? I always think like, oh, his ex-wife spends too much. Like I never go to gambling, even though that, could easily be, it's going straight up somebody's nose or something like that. But gambling it's like a legitimate reason why you'd have debts.
Yep.
Because it's fun to gamble. It's just really expensive.
Until it gets to you.
Yeah.
Then it's not fun anymore.
I gamble by calling strange gold farbs.
Well, yeah, but
How did you make out?
So far, so good.
Okay.
So do you get like that rush of adrenaline when you find a hot gold farb? You're like,
You want me to discuss the hot one?
He does.
Yeah,
he does.
I do.
Definitely.
Yeah. It's quite exciting, Louise. I get very excited.
yeah, it is exciting. So we need you, Phil, or we need Will Goldfarb, the pastry genius. I mean, anyone
Well, we're
who's
going to-
identified as a pastry genius on the internet, we need you.
His cookbook is $50.
Oh, really?
Yes.
No, now, these Goldfarbs that I found, have you tried to contact...
Well, he's in Bali, and so
He's in Bali, okay.
we're all going to Bali. Didn't I mention that? We're all going.
That's a yes.
We're all
Yes,
going
he
to Bali
has.
to try his desserts. He makes these sculptured desserts, with a little piece of this, a little piece of that, and some syrup over it. That's
well,
what he does.
He's a pastry genius.
Did he ever show up with Anthony Bourdain? Or?
Ooh.
His stuff? It's got a little piece of thing here and a little
just
leaf
curious,
and
yeah.
some syrup. It's like it's a dessert.
But I think it's kind of reassuring to know that we have a Goldfarb in Bali.
Well,
should the need arise in
If you're
Bali
in the-
for a Goldfarb.
if you're in the neighborhood and you need a dessert, you got a gold farb, right?
So now, what do you guys know about Goldfarbs that you're related to? Do you feel like all the Goldfarbs that you're related to, you already know them? Or do you feel like if you go in search of Goldfarbs, you're going to find some people that you actually share DNA with?
I feel that everyone is a Goldfarb,
There you go.
in a way. I'm working on my Walter math out. Can I try it out on you?
Oh, no.
Please.
Felix, now it's garbage. Not bad.
Not bad.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
What's your favorite impression?
I got so many I don't even know where to start.
Can you do her?
Not yet.
Yeah, work on it.
Later.
So when you do stand-up, do you do a lot of impressions?
Sometimes.
And did that come naturally to you as a child?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a gift.
It's like it's like a musical ear, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
Everybody used to do Ed Sullivan. Remember?
I do remember him. I don't do him.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
But what an important element is missing from our culture to have that Sunday night of talent, of a big mix of stuff, singers and jugglers. And
Yeah.
some people who sang the same song every time they're on, like Frankie Lane or Pearl Bailey, the same song. That
They would?
Yeah. Frankie Lane, this time you've given me
Mule Train.
something
Train.
like that. Pearl Bailey, Won't You Come Home, Bill Bailey, always the same song every time they came on.
But he also booked people who they had to dust off from some sort of closet because they hadn't worked in 20 years. And they showed up there and you were wondering each time, how did they get there and why? Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
Was it the
there-
plate spinner
Yeah,
guy?
the spinning
Well, the
plates
plate
was
spinner
good.
guys, but I mean, they were like operetta singers. And
Right.
Nobody had done operetta in 30 years.
Operetta,
but,
yeah.
Right, but there she was, right? Her name was Fritzi Chef, if I could remember
That
that.
was good.
That's
I
awesome.
have no idea how
And
I
then these
remember
poor
that.
comedians, they do Ed Sullivan, and then that was their routine, and they used up all the material on Ed Sullivan. It was like, they
Yep,
had
that's
nothing
called
else.
in the comedy world. That's called burning through your act
I've heard that.
because everyone has seen it. Now, of course, if you do something, not everyone has seen it because there used to just be 3 channels. Now, if you want to know what the Ed Sullivan Show was like, just keep randomly clicking YouTube videos. Like, don't even look, just click one. And that was what the Ed Sullivan Show was like. It was like somebody was randomly clicking on YouTube videos. So you'd go from like a puppet
Yes.
to a plate spinner to an operetta.
I
the
actually
Beatles.
got to see Senior Wences
there you
live
go.
one time.
How old are you when this happens?
When I saw him live, it was here in L.A. and it was at the Variety Arts Theater.
All right, so
Downtown.
describe him. Describe him.
Oh, Senior Wences, he was Argentine, I believe, and he had two forms of puppets. One was actually his hand
Yeah.
with a bit of lipstick and a wig.
We all tried to make that on our hand.
And then he had another one which came out of a box.
Now that's
right?
entertainment.
And the guy who came out of a box only had one expression. It's all right.
It's all right.
Is that right?
All right. And the other one he would talk to, and then he would sing in falsetto. And it was wonderful.
Yeah.
It was absolutely wonderful.
It was
That's
wonderful,
when
but-
TV was TV.
I would like to see that
stuff.
act in the developmental stages, when it was like he was just talking to his hand and his hand was talking, but he hadn't drawn in the eyes.
Yeah.
Right. Or put the
know.
wig on yet.
And but you have to develop the act and not get locked up while doing so. Because family members had to have been concerned.
It's missing something.
Like, what is he? Yeah, it's
The false teeth. Oh no, take out the teeth.
Yeah. And then Ed would talk to a puppet. Sometimes he would talk to Coco Gigio.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And he would call him Eddie. And everyone had inappropriate accents that would now be
yeah.
considered, like remember the guy
Jackie
that would
Mason, Jose Jimenez.
Who was that guy?
Jose Jimenez.
Yeah, Jose Jimenez. Like, wouldn't that be considered
Yes.
just
Yes, it would be.
not
We would
okay?
do- yes.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of stuff that was okay then.
Jackie Mason.
Jackie Mason.
Funny.
But somebody-
I had an interview with Jackie Mason one time
Yes.
on a picture that he was going to do, and he had an apartment on, I guess it was Central Park South, and the interview took place in the apartment.
You have had some experiences.
And so there we are, we're talking, and I find myself, as I'm talking to Jackie Mason, that I begin to sound like Jackie Mason because it's almost
rhythms.
impossible to keep your own rhythm while talking to Jackie Mason.
That's fascinating.
Can't help it.
Because that's how people pick up accents anyway. It just, you get
And then
in-
Donald Trump did it.
Oh really?
Yeah, just
Oh, it is-
recently.
yeah.
No, first it's going to go to the court,
court,
and then if it
and then
goes
it
to the
goes-
court, then we'll get turned down, and then we'll go.
Exactly.
I think
and
Donald
he
Trump
was doing Jackie
was
Mason.
very-
just
he did
wrote
very well.
the worst song ever written. that was that song that Donald Trump performed. He was going to the court, and then they're going to the verdict, and they're going to the Supreme Court because I've stuffed it, and it's going to come back okay because Kavanaugh likes beer. He likes beer a lot. He's usually drunk.
Well, you've never passed out?
God.
You've never passed out?
You've never had a beer?
I guess that answers that.
It's making me thirsty.
Oh, my.
Who wants to play What's Twitter Trending?
Oh, no.
All right, it's a feature of our show. What we do is we go onto Twitter and we see what's trending, and then we explore.
This is exciting.
I can never say it without saying Tritter the first time around. What's Twitter? But then I edit that
Wasn't
out.
that somebody's horse?
Trigger.
Sorry.
Stuffed mounted.
Oh, he's dead now.
Have you met Roy Rogers?
The horse is dead.
Did I ever meet him?
Yeah, I've met him.
No.
I met
No.
Dale.
Dale Evans?
And their son, Dusty.
I met
Get outta here.
Buster Crabbe.
Oh, you did? Was he?
Yeah.
Was he topless?
He was actually, it was very, very late in his career. It was a commercial. And very nice man, but was almost unable to lift his arms above his shoulders.
Oh, too much butterfly?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess, or something. But nice, but pretty late on. I mean, as a matter of fact, that was the day the elephant got loose.
Oh, that's a story you're going to have to tell.
Okay.
So we're filming in a studio on the west side of Manhattan.
What are you filming?
Commercial,
Oh, a commercial. Okay.
right? And they need an elephant for the commercial.
Well, sure. Of
And
course they
so
do.
they bring the elephant in through a stage door, and literally at one point, the elephant actually gets loose and out into the street and is heading for a playground filled with kids.
Uh-oh.
And I thought, here we go. Right, I'm done. I'm absolutely done because somebody's going to come around and ask me, okay, who's in charge here?
Yeah.
Fortunately, they were able to stop the elephant before it got to the kids. The
How
kids,
do you stop an elephant?
he
A
literally
mouse.
got in front of it with one of those hooks,
Ooh.
and just basically slammed him, turned him around, and got him back on stage. But for a minute there, I thought my career's over.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how Chuckles the Clown dies.
No.
Yeah, but that wasn't real.
No, it
What?
wasn't. It wasn't. But it was based on true events, I'm sure. If you dress like a peanut, you have to watch out for stray elephants.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, who wants to play What's Twitter Trending? What's Twitter Trending today is hashtag poor excuses for canceling plans. And we have 3 winners from Michael. My ankle monitor is going off. Okay, that's a pretty good excuse
That
for
is
canceling.
good.
Yep,
It does happen.
it does. From Curte Toros, hashtag game just started.
Okay.
Yep, that's a good excuse.
Yes.
Did I have another one?
You only have the 2.
I only had 2.
Yeah.
That means I forgot to cut and paste one of them.
It's all good.
All right, so we're going to move on to Facebook feed time, and let's talk Oscars before we get to it.
Yeah.
Who watched the Oscars, and what are your thoughts? Everyone here is creative, so let's talk. Let's just have some controversial
Yeah.
dialogue about the Oscars.
I read about him.
Oh, you didn't watch them?
No.
Okay.
It's too much stress.
Oh no, it's easy to watch.
Yeah,
it's
it
easy to
was.
watch because it's like I don't have a dog in that
My
fight.
heart.
Did anybody watch the red carpet piece with Trevor Noah?
No, I read about that.
Oh, that was wonderful.
Tell us
Pretty
what
funny.
happened.
Well, here's as best as I can explain it. He quoted, I think it was a South African native language, right?
Gosa.
Right. And he claimed
That's how it's pronounced.
if we don't fight together, if we fight apart, we should not fight apart. We should fight together. And that was the way he translated it. He later said that what he actually said is, white people will not understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, I hadn't heard that part.
Yeah. Pretty good.
I think that was my favorite moment in the whole thing. Other than truly Lady Gaga and
Bradley Cooper.
Bradley Cooper doing the number,
Yeah.
which
yeah.
was, I thought was an incredible moment. An absolutely incredible
Who
moment.
watched it back more than once? Show of hands. I did. Pretty magical.
Well, they have GIFs now. You can just watch.
yeah, you can just keep
watch
watching it.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can put it on a loop,
Yeah.
project it on your wall.
And the opening was terrific. As much as I didn't care for the movie, Bohemian Rhapsody, that opening number was just dynamite.
So why didn't you like the movie?
Well, first of all, I thought it was cliched.
Mm-hmm.
And it was then I wrote, and then I stopped writing, and then I wrote again. And it was like, okay. And the other part of it, which is sort of maybe particular to me and my sensibilities, he had trouble with the teeth
Right.
and kept doing that the whole time.
Right. It was distracting.
And it was distracting.
Yeah. Do you think he had to have the prosthetic teeth? Couldn't he have just embodied Freddie Mercury, which he already was doing?
Well, that's what I would have hoped for, because it felt then more like an impression than a performance, if one can distinguish between the two. And so I was not taken with the film, even though the music is terrific.
Yes. And it makes people want to learn more about Queen. And I forget, one of these guys, I don't know, I don't think it's one of you two. Are you the Queen guy?
Connor's a big Queen fan.
Yeah, Connor's a big Queen guy.
Yes,
okay.
I am.
So, and Connor, and people who are big Queen people, they watched the movie and it was like, ugh, things that this did not happen in this order. So tell us what was distressing about the film for you, Connor.
He didn't know he had AIDS when he performed at Live Aid.
Right.
So, like, the whole third act wrap up was, like, wrong, basically. So they drummed up a bunch of drama that didn't actually exist.
So then that's quite a creative license to take for the sake of a
Yeah.
plot point, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
Especially
how I
when it's in the
felt.
form of a fatal disease.
Yeah, so it was like, watching that, it was just kind of like, well, this is all just, like, manufactured, basically. So it was, like, not as exciting as I feel like it could have been.
But the live, I think what makes that film is the Live Aid sequence in that film is just stunning to behold on a big screen. It was one of those moments in a movie theater where you think, I'm going to remember where I was when I watched this, because it just overwhelms you. I thought they did a really good job of bringing that moment to more than life, to way, way bigger than life. And then you come home and you watch it on YouTube, the actual Queen, and it was like, yeah, it was like that. It was like all of these people are moving in unison, and those moments are just indescribable. It's like humanity all feeling the same heartbeat. I don't know. It's just, and I think they were able to capture that. But what movies did you guys like this year that you felt maybe didn't get their shot at the Oscars?
There was a scene in Bohemian Rhapsody that they ended up editing out, which I was sad about. They actually did write dreidel.
Oh, I didn't realize
they did
that.
it like an operatic style.
Jerks.
I think it was the Mike Myers guy was like, no, you're not putting dreidel on the album.
Yeah,
I
they
think,
fought- there was an
they fought
argument.
over
It was a
it. And
huge
they
fight.
left
Hey,
him.
Huge
Louis,
fight. Everybody
before we
walks
run
out.
out of time, I want to tell these guys, you see that the Cow Seals flick, you know, that's Louise's flick.
Yes.
Everybody on this panel should see that movie. I saw that, and it
great.
was just amazing.
I'm a very creative Goldfarb.
And so
I
she-
directed a movie
We
called,
can adopt you.
Yes.
I would love it,
There you go.
Family Band: The Cow Sales Story, available on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
And
very good.
it's a documentary, which means it really happened.
It's great.
Yeah, the actors that I got to play the Cow Seals are the Cow Seals. That's how you define a documentary.
No, you just reminded me of something
Yeah.
which I have a beef about, and that is they do these car commercials, and they say these are not actors, they're real people. And does that mean an actor is not a real person?
Not a real person.
How did
Not
that
Paid to
happen?
be on TV.
Real. I also don't even believe that they're not. I think that they're filmed several different times, like reacting to, oh, did you realize you're at a zoo or whatever.
Oh, it's definitely like that.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of BS.
It's like
and then
the
they're
Febreze,
like, oh, they're
the scent of the camel dung. Yeah, so let's take it for the 16th time and pretend to be amazed. But remember, you're not a real actor.
I was once working. I was on the lot at Warner Brothers, and in the trailer adjacent to my office was the auditions for one of these kind of overamped quiz shows, and they were actually teaching people how to overreact.
Well,
Screaming, yelling, clapping their hands in the air, jumping up and down.
I believe that because when I first came to town, I tried out for a game show called Face the Music. And it wasn't just that you were able to name a song, which I have this savant ability to do, because I would always listen to my parents' albums, so I knew way more than, my own generation of music. But you had to be able to hit the button and scream, "I got it," with so much enthusiasm. That people in neighboring sound stages were disturbed.
Understood.
And then the host was TV's Tarzan, Ron Ely. Yeah. And that's how I broke into show business.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did he help you?
No, you're not allowed to talk to anybody, and they keep that that quiz show scandal thing. They really keep you. You're not allowed to speak to anybody until he's
Right.
leaning way over because he's really tall and asking you.
No, because I took the Jeopardy test.
Oh, you did?
I did.
How'd you do?
I did extremely well, but then they wouldn't let me on the show because they saw I was in the business.
Oh.
And it was like, why am I here?
See, and it doesn't matter on The Bachelor because even if you're an actress with headshots, they'll put pharmaceutical sales.
Yeah, I have a problem with that.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I didn't want to misrepresent myself.
No, exactly.
They said you cheated.
I see.
What, by knowing
back
all
to
these things?
childhood.
Yeah, I did
Oy.
again.
Yeah.
Oy,
You did
gewalt.
too well.
Yeah.
So what other did you? How did you feel about Best Picture going to Green Book?
I was a little surprised, and I started thinking about it from the standpoint of handicapping.
Okay.
Okay.
You mean like what votes would cancel
yeah,
each other
yeah,
out?
exactly,
Okay.
exactly. And what I came up with was Roma had gotten Best Foreign.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's put Roma in that category. And the votes for Black Panther and Black Klansman offset each other.
Because they begin with the same word.
Well, in a sense, or they
Same
were
market.
kind of in the same genre
Yeah, same.
in a certain sense. And as a result of that vote being split between the two and Roma getting Best Foreign, that gave an open pathway
So which one is the Bernie Sanders?
to Green Book. Which one is the Bernie Sanders? You mean in the overall
splitting,
scheme?
splitting the
Oh, which one?
team.
You mean like the spoiler? Wow.
Well,
All right,
that
I didn't
probably
mean to take it there.
that probably would have been Star is Born, which didn't get there. In Best
think-
Picture.
But they peeled off some points.
Yeah, no, but they all did. I
Yeah,
mean, what was great
sure.
about the show was the diversity of choices. I mean, it really spread.
There wasn't one movie that won everything, right?
No.
It was kind of like spread
Bohemian
out.
Rhapsody ended up, I think, winning more specific Oscars than anything else.
And then Black Panther won a lot of the technicals.
Well, they won Best Costume and Best Production Design,
Okay.
which was nice because I think it was the first time an African American won in both of those categories, which was really terrific. And then what was amusing was Spike Lee taking credit for the screenplay on Black Klansman, which he didn't write.
Did he really?
No, he jumped up first, got on stage, jumped onto Samuel Jackson, and then read the acceptance speech.
Yeah, Alfonso did that with the cinematography award too. He just like he was just like, "Yep, this is mine," even though like I know people have been posting like personally people I've worked with that know people that have like call sheets from like the shoot of Roma.
Wow.
And they're straight up like there's a completely different cinematographer listed and like
Really?
Alfonso just like
I had no idea.
yeah, it's like in like the camera community, it's like all over the internet, like all these like call sheets and like everyone's like, yo, like he didn't actually.
So Alfonso, your secret is lost.
yeah.
You know, and what makes that even more of a shocking statement, Thomas, is that the cinematography in Roma is completely revolutionary.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know.
and so
he
for
thinks-
someone to take credit from that, from someone else,
It's a very new DP, I guess. That was
Wow.
it was from Mexico City, I believe, and he just like totally got like, he didn't even get thanked. Like Alfonso didn't even thank him. I know, it's so like screwed up.
Do
So,
you know his name?
let's give him a
yeah, I
shout
could look him
out.
up.
Let's find it and give him a shout
No,
out.
I mean because he did pay homage to Lubetsky, right? When
Yeah.
he accepted.
I think he did, yeah. But
Yeah, no, he did. I remember that.
but like,
He called him by his nickname Chivo.
Chivo,
Oh.
Lubetsky,
Lubetsky.
yeah. All right.
All right.
I like the
Well, now
velvet
there's a
ball gown
revelation
on the
that
red
none of
carpet.
us
That's my
expected.
favorite.
Wait, say that
Oscars.
again, Audrey.
The velvet ball tuxedo ball gown on the red carpet.
Yeah, that was
of
pretty.
Billy's. That was my favorite part.
Yeah.
That was pretty interesting. Yeah.
That was really good. Well, I enjoyed it, and I thought that a lot of the movies were really good, and so I wasn't set up to be disappointed if something or other didn't win. I was just happy for everybody. So now we're going to do Facebook feed time. Well, I was disappointed for this because my friend Diane Warren is nominated every year for Best Song, and she's becoming the Susan Lucci of song. But I think that it's just like setting her up for when she actually wins. It's going to be like confetti is going to come out of the ceiling and everything. So for Facebook feed time, we have this post. There's Diane hugging Lady Gaga, or probably whispering something vulgar in her ear, because Diane does have a bit of a mouth. And this is from a page called Diane Warren Fan Talk. And the caption is, unfortunately, Diane did not win the Oscar last night. So Diane was nominated for her song from RBG, which is like a very inspirational song. It was sung by Jennifer Hudson at the awards. So
Right.
every year there's like someone amazing singing one of Diane's songs at the Oscars. It's become like an annual event. But unfortunately, Diane did not win the Oscar last night. She lost out to Lady Gaga and her big hit Shallow from A Star Is Born. However, Diane was one of the first to congratulate Gaga after the award was presented. This beautiful moment was captured in the photo below. Of course, probably the photo credit goes to the guy who did the cinematography on Roma, but uncredited. But that is a really sweet photo of Diane and Lady Gaga. And I think that's going to be that song, the way they just got up out of the audience and went to the piano, or she went to the piano, and it was just so simple and so beautiful, and it kind of defines like what a great song and compatible personalities can bring to a moment, and that's going to be something that's played at every Oscar compilation highlight reel from this point onward.
So, but it was a whole new producing and directing crew, I think, this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I thought the show ran really well. It was only, 15 minutes over?
Maybe without a host, there's more time for people to give acceptance speeches.
Isn't that funny how that worked out?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the host is us talking about it afterwards, which people love to do.
Well, maybe we could do a compilation, right?
Oh, I think we should.
With our comments and redo the show.
I think that's an excellent idea, like the Goldfarb version of
With the real
Oscars.
dirt. I like the dirt.
Yeah.
The stuff we got is really hot.
All right, let's have everybody plug whatever they're up to, and should we start? No?
Yeah, Jeffrey, what are you up to?
Jeffrey.
Here with them.
He's just following us. He's
Comic relief.
yeah, he's our
Jeffrey is our studio
I just
audience.
follow them anywhere they go.
yeah.
Audrey, where can we find you? Online?
You can find Oddreality at youtube.com/oddreality and oddreality.wordpress.com.
But why don't you spell it? Because it's like Audrey, right? Instead of like odd.
Yes, there's
So
a
spell
pun
it.
involved. It's
I love it. But spell it.
AUDREALITY. Forgot what I was spelling there for a second.
Yeah, it's like your name, yeah.
Life's a trip. This is Oddreality.
And Del?
Yes, I could. I am just doing all sorts of music stuff. Gathering Goldfarbs, wandering around.
Yeah.
Staying
So
alive.
if you're out there and you're a Goldfarb, please comment in this thread, because he's going to scoop you up and add you to the Goldfarb cocktail that he's creating.
Well, we have a backlog right now of Goldfarbs.
Oh, there's Odd Reality.
Look,
Lovely.
there's my blog. You can see a lot of episodes.
It's hot stuff.
Embedded there. You can also see some of my paintings and stuff that I write about. Usually I write about things that piss me off. So toxic masculinity and rape culture. That's my sizzle reel. But yeah, this is
Wow.
all kinds of fun stuff. I specialize in having fun in the videos.
I love it. And Phil, where can we find you? What are you up to next?
Basically in development limbo
Okay.
at the moment. 2 projects, a TV pilot based on the activities of the New York City Police Department Intelligence Unit,
Wow.
and a feature film based on a true incident which occurred in Berlin in 1944 about Jews who were married, male Jews who were married to non-Jewish German women, and how they fared during the war, and how their wives, by protesting, were able to prevent them from going on the train to the camp.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
I look forward to that.
Yeah, so am I.
And David?
Hi. I don't want to say anything that's going to get me into trouble, but
Okay.
I'm
Too late.
working on something really big.
Yeah.
Too
I'm going to
late.
take a nap later.
Well, look at that face.
He's excited.
Oh, yeah.
How adorable is that guy?
He
Oh,
is
thank you.
he's
Yeah.
a cute person.
Yeah, he is.
I like
Once you
the
meet guy.
cartoon
we'll see what
version better.
happens.
You are a
It's
credit to
unpredictable.
Goldfarbs.
He's something else.
Yeah.
And I am Louise Palanker, and I want to thank Thomas Hubble and Connor McGlynn, David Court, and Dina Friedman. And we will see you next week with Jamie Elcroft. And be kind, and be healthy, and be safe, and be good to one another. Bye-bye.